Hi, it's Von Hertzog. I'd like to welcome you back to the Social Club, my analog digital hybrid studio. Today I want to talk about using a drum bus to improve the sound of your drums in your mix. Now this is an old school technique, but it just might be the missing piece that you're looking for in your productions. I'm going to walk you through a session of one of my songs where I show you exactly how I process the drum mix and how I fold it back into the mix to add that perfect amount of extra oomph. So pour yourself a drink, get comfy. Welcome to the Social Club. Why use a drum bus? Well, it gives you an extra layer of drums that you can process and then fold back into the mix. So you can get pretty aggressive with the way you want to process your drum bus, maybe some extra saturation or a little more creative EQ or some extra compression to really smash it down. And then when you start folding that back in and you start adding that parallel processing in, you're going to hear how much sturdier your drums sound, how they cut through the mix easier. And that's what we're after, right? Before we get too far along, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps grow the channel. I'm at 4,200 subscribers right now, trying to get to 5K by the beginning of the year. Maybe you can help me get there. Drop me a comment and let me know if you already use a drum bus. And if you do, what's on your drum bus channel? What are you using on it? And tell me why you like it. My drum bus takes up 6 channels. Channels 1 through 5 are individual drum sounds. Channel 6 is the drum bus itself. Channel 1, kick drum. Channel 2, snare drum. Channel 3, my cymbals. Channel 4, toms. Channel 5, miscellaneous percussion. All of those 5 channels use their sends to send their information over to channel 6, which is the drum bus. Here we can EQ it, compress it, saturate it, stereo widen it, mono it, whatever we're after, and then we fold it back in. Now, you can get really creative with all the different plugins you want to use on your drum bus, but the one I always start with is the SSL channel strip and the SSL bus compressor. That's my starting point. I start the bus compressor with a 30 millisecond attack, 0.1 millisecond release, 4:1 ratio, and I blend to taste on how much of the compression, the wet dry knob, how much of it I want poking through. These are tried and true SSL bus compressor settings, and I find they're at least a good starting point, even if they don't stay there. So now that you know how we do this, why do we do this? Because we want to use the technique of parallel compression to really make these drums shine. On the individual drum tracks, you can decide exactly how much compression or EQ you want for each individual sound. But by processing the drum bus and folding it back in, that's really where we get it to cut through and add some of that bottom end sturdiness that we need for our drums to form the foundation of the track. So you can make those creative EQ and compression decisions on your drum bus without having them take away from those sounds on the individual tracks. And since you're blending them together, you're getting some of that unprocessed drum sounds through in with some of that over-processed drum sound. And it's a perfect dial to taste kind of scenario. So given that this is what we want to do, let's jump into a session. Let me pull a session up and let's go through it and see what we're really talking about here, okay? I'm going to be using my mix template from my mix template video, which if you haven't already seen, link here. In that video, I showed you my breakdown for how I set up my mix template with my 16 stereo stem groups and how 1 through 5 are the individual drums broken out, and then 6 is my drum bus. So let's look at the screen here. As you can see, groups 1 through 5 are the individual sounds. So groups 1 through 5 are sending to group 6 right here. Now, they send at slightly different levels because I am mixing these in analog, which means the individual channels are getting adjusted here in analog, not in the box. So that means that all of these faders are staying flat at 0 in the box, okay? And they get sent to this where they get manually adjusted. Since I'm not adjusting them with the faders here, I adjust the send levels to make sure that the right amount is getting sent to channel 6. So the way I process channel 6 then is I have my standard SSL EQ over every channel in the session. That's so when I pull up SSL 360, all the channels are represented. So that's pretty much the drums being added in via the drum bus without any extra processing. I have a limiter here, just make sure that the channel doesn't clip before it leaves. But let's start actually processing this drum bus. And we'll start with a little bit of saturation via tape. We'll start with the Slate Digital. So once we have the tape dialed in, I'm going to show you the compressor that I usually use on my bus compressor. And that's because I have it set up with some tried and true settings, like Dr. Dre's drum bus, 30 millisecond attack, 0.1 millisecond release, 4:1 ratio, 100% wet. We want this whole thing processed. We're not trying to let any of the original dry signal sneak through. We're processing the whole thing. And this is how it sounds with this. So you could tell there that when you take the drum bus out, your drums aren't nearly as crisp or clear as when you add that drum bus back in. But maybe you're not a fan of the SSL bus compressor. Maybe you want to try something different. Maybe you're a distressor guy, right? So you want to go with this arouser, which is the distressor in plug-in form, right? And let's see how this affects it differently. Why would I switch between those two? Well, to me, the bus compressor sounds a little more natural and not as bright. The arouser feels more two-dimensional. It might squish the stuff down, but it feels more in your face, as where there's a bit more depth to the SSL. Now, being that it's only being applied to your drum bus, that's fine. That's a per taste kind of situation. And even another flavor for this is to go with an LA2A style, which has a bit more of a rounding to it. It's not as crisp as the distressor. The LA2A sounds really good on here. I can't lie. I'm liking, it gives it a little bit more of a rubbery kind of feel. I don't know how else to describe it. Might be the tube emulation that they're using in this. You know, the LA2A is tube-based. It's a tube-based opto compressor. So maybe that's the difference, right? But given these three compressors, I think I like the LA2A for this situation. But you tell me, drop me a line in the comments. Can you hear a difference? And if you can hear that difference, because I don't know how YouTube compression is going to muck this up. But assuming you can hear a difference, which do you prefer? Or download the template, try it on your own, and see what you think. You can download this template, link in the description, download these files, see if you like them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the drum bus all the way down, and we're going to start with the drum bus at 0, and I'm going to start blending it back into taste. And I'll tell you when I think it's just about at the right spot. Notice that difference? Just, you can hear that, right? Like, I mean, you got ears. You can hear the difference that the drum bus adds and how it just makes it sound like a more polished track. You know, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here, and I'm not showing you a technique I invented. This is old stuff. But if you're not using it, it's new to you, and it's worthwhile to have in your toolbox, in your arsenal. So experiment with it. Spend a little time using a drum bus, and you might be shocked at how it just gets you over that little hump that you were struggling to get over, that you weren't really sure. How do I get my drums to cut through? How do I get them to sound like smack in and in your face, but still sound cohesive? Well, use a drum bus and blend to taste. Get your compressor nailed down. Get your EQ nailed down. And then figure out what you like and fold it back in. So this is it. This is what I'm talking about. Using a drum bus to get your drums to sound more in your face, a little more polished, the right amount of compression, EQ, saturation, all of that stuff, and then just blending it back into taste. You're like a chef in the kitchen, right? And you're making that sauce, and you got to get the sauce just right amount of seasonings. This is the right amount of seasoning if you can dial it in. Don't get me wrong, you can go overboard, you can go underboard. But that's where experimentation is king. So what do you think about this? Drop me a line. Tell me what you think in the comments, because I think this is a technique that's worth exploring. I think it's something that really helps bring your drums to the next level and set your productions apart from people who aren't using drum buses and are just trying to have their drums do all the heavy lifting. And it's like, bro, there's a better way. Don't ask your individual drums to do everything. Help them out. Give them a best friend. Give them an extra channel of additional processing that helps them really cut through and shine. And that's what you want, especially if you're in hip hop. If you're in hip hop or rock, you need to be using a drum bus. You need to. There's no shortcut. Use the drum bus, get the better results. Figure out which EQ and which saturation and which compression works for you and your drum bus. And it might change per song, like it does with me, you know? Different sounds require different care. Once you understand the concept, it's a piece of cake. You can walk right through it. I want to send a big shout out to Czarina. Czarina is one of my artists here at the Social Club who I work with very frequently and who is an unparalleled talent. Amazing. Her visuals, her sounds, next level stuff. I'm wearing my Czarina tee today. Her new album Empire is out now from Dark Tunes Music Group. Go give it a listen if you haven't already. Amazing music on there. I co-produced the album with Czarina, but I also am featured on one of the songs, Metatronica. And thank you to Czarina for this lovely t-shirt. If you want to get a t-shirt like this, head over to Czarina's Bandcamp. She has them for sale there. Grab them before they sell out. Thanks so much for coming along and watching these videos. You know, I enjoy making them. I really hope that you're getting something out of them and they're providing a worthwhile service to you. And if they are, I ask you to please like and subscribe so I can keep doing these things. And I think that does it. Thank you so much for coming along today. So until next time, this has been Von Hertzog from the Social Club.